You'll never be a doctor with those enormous fingers.
We've all been there, bunk funkers. It's 3 a.m. and you're on the internet. You're supposed to be studying. You have an exam the next day, but you're not. You're actively sleuthing and surfing down a rabbit hole you never even realized you were interested in. Now, the rabbit hole enchilada of today's topic is no exception. Lake City Quiet Pills is an old, odd mystery originating from the website Reddit, involving some shady characters and possibly international assassins.
Art, you truly can get lost down the mysterious nodes of the net. I know I have. Occasionally I roleplay, or RP, as Dr. Thickfingers, a doctor with abnormally thick fingers on my insurance provider's medical questions forum. I got a whole backstory, Art. My grandfather was a German watchmaker, and my father helped set precious stones in various pieces of jewelry. Both were frequently out of work. But I never let that get me down. You'll never be a doctor with those enormous fingers. Who would take a prostate exam from you? Get me another life-saving vaccine. You've smashed the one intended for this patient with your obnoxiously thick fingers. Are all things they said to me. But look at me now, Art. I give people the medical advice they need on a forum they think they can trust.
Well, Andy, what you're doing is morally questionable to say the least, and I think later we should definitely find you a different character to roleplay as in your free time, but it does relate to today's topic. It was a very nice segue, as there are plenty of morally questionable activities involved. Now, it all starts on a little website called Reddit. If you're not familiar with Reddit, it's a content aggregation / social media site where users can, well, first you can create an account so that you can submit content for anything, really, funny pictures, news articles, interesting facts, etc., etc. The other users on the site can then vote on how interesting or uninteresting the content is. In theory, the coolest stuff rises to the top. But much like all social media, it has been corrupted by foreign interests and bots. Anywho, there's a subreddit for literally anything. I mean, you can find, these are like, you think of like, you're drilling down into the forums for the most niche topics. I mean, your most niche TV show. You can find subreddits for daily drawing inspiration posts, your favorite sports team, anything.
Maybe one day even a Mr. Bunker subreddit will appear. But most of the time you can find Art and I on the R Hot Garfs, a subreddit dedicated to posting sexy and provocative pictures of the cartoon cat Garfield.
That's true. We do spend a lot of time there.
Oh, man. Garfield in a thong?
Whoa.
Sign me up.
I like buff Garfield with a huge dong.
Well, we all have different tastes in our Hot Garfs.
That's true.
And there's something for everybody.
But we're all brought together by our common inspiration in posting those images.
Yeah. Horniness.
Now, Lake City Quiet Pills starts with a prolific user of Reddit. This is u/religion of peace. All Reddit usernames start with u/. But religion of peace, aka ROP or Milo, as we'll refer to him interchangeably throughout this story.
Religion of Peace created his account on December 12th, 2007, which were the early years of Reddit as the site only started in 2005. ROP had a pretty lengthy comment history. He would find posts of all sorts of topics and comment away. He would talk about marijuana, politics, and answer questions / give advice in the r Ask Reddit subreddit, all with the same snark or grumpiness of a so-called older person. His account is still around if you want to check it out. Head to reddit.com/u/religion of peace. He also posted a lot about military topics. It really seemed like the person had a vast knowledge of military-specific jargon and military history, the kind of knowledge that one probably only gets if they've served in the military. At one point, ROP claims to even know what kind of piano wire could kill someone. Also, ROP was a moderator of the r/jailbait subreddit, a subreddit dedicated to posting pictures of questionably aged girls, actresses, and porn stars who looked underage, but were not legally underage. Here's a comment where he defends his habits. Quote, "When you're 79, almost every girl is a young girl. Being old does not mean dead. I still enjoy a cute face and a tight body. I also have the hots for your mom, more like as not." End quote. Needless to say, besides being a bit of a grump, ROP was also a bit of a pervert.
Yeah, you could say that.
And maybe more than a bit.
Yeah. Now, in that post, ROP claims to be 79 years old, and that's kind of an old age to be using Reddit. I mean, now, both his age and military history have come into question as well. For example, in one post commemorating the 65th anniversary of D-Day, the World War II military operation by Allied forces on Normandy Beach in France, on June 6, 2009, ROP commented sharing his experience aboard a troop ship on the day. While he never went ashore, he did ferry soldiers onto the beach. Think kind of the intro to Saving Private Ryan. He also claims to be 79 years old at the time of this post, which would have made him 14 years old on the time of D-Day. And while some soldiers did lie about their age to join World War II, 14 is a wee bit sus without, documented proof. So anyway, if we look back through ROP's post history on Reddit, we can see that a year prior, in 2008, he claimed his age was 70 years old in another thread. And in another thread from 2009, he also claims he stayed in the military until 1987.
Overall, You Religion of Peace's comment history is extensive, and from a brief look through, you can tell the person has an interest in military combat. They understand various military jargon, and oddly enough, this so-called 79-year-old also seems to have knowledge as a technical writer or computer programming, more than you would expect of an almost 80-year-old World War II vet. One user who has been active in sleuthing the Lake City Quiet Pills mystery, named Xenophobe51, gave an interview to the podcast Thinking Sideways. On it, Zeno, who was Zeno, I should say, that's short for Xenophobe51.
That's right.
Who was in the military in the 90s, believes that ROP likely had military experience, but probably the Vietnam era, not World War II, due to his jargon and manner of speech. ROP also frequently promoted his website, lakecityquietpills.com. The site was built like a photo hosting platform like Imgur. Is it Imgur or Imgur?
I think technically it's Imager, but I say Imgur.
I say Imgur too, so I'm going to say Imgur still. So the lakecityquietpills.com site was built like a photo hosting platform like Imgur, or if you're old like us, PhotoBucket. I know how to say that one. Basically, users could create an account and upload photos, which they could then link to on sites like Reddit. And as you can probably guess, like most things on the internet, Lake City was used mainly for porn. It was also nicknamed, quote, that old guy's image host, end quote.
All right, so now you kind of got some backstory on this ROP fella, but here's the catalyst that sets the whole thing in motion. On Friday, July 17th, 2009, a user by the name of U2-6 would make the following post to the R, which is also uncategorized, section of Reddit. It was in reference to his friend Milo passing away. The post has a very specific spelling errors, so we'll read it as written. I just want to clarify, it's not me not being able to read and pronounce things correctly, bunk funkers.
For once.
So the post goes like this. I'm the person who provided Religion of Peace the space for that old guy's image host. Milo died today. He was 79 years old. He died at his desk looking at your site. Milo was a mean old fucker. Mean and ornery. He hooked me up with my first gig when I got out of the army. I didn't like finding him like that. Milo didn't have any living relatives and no real friends. And other than his landlady and a few people where he worked, he didn't talk to anyone about much of anything. Me, he just tolerated. As I said, he was mean. I think he used that as a shield to keep people away from him. Milo thought God was some kind of con game thought up by some lazy sons of bitches who didn't want to work every day. So he's going into the fire on Monday without a service, just like he wanted. I'm planning to dump his ashes in the woods in PA near where he was born. Can't put him right there because there's a mall there now. I gave the girl next door his raggedy old cat and most of his books. His computers and Tronic shit he tagged for the disabled vets and VVA. All the rest of the stuff is for the Salvation Army. All those years and everything he owned fits in the trunk of my car. I don't know what else to say. I'll miss him, miserable bastard.
2-6 also minutes of where he ended up dumping ROP's ashes, which was a Holiday Inn near Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Similarly, I want my ashes dumped at a Motel 6 near Lexington and a Ramada Inn near Concord. And I need you to do that for me, Art.
I will fulfill your wishes, Andy.
Thank you. Now, Reddit was a bit different back in this time. The site was way smaller than it is today and had way less traffic. This was the early days of social media before it became the dumpster fire hellscape that it is today. So when 26 posted this message to the r/all page, it actually gained a fair bit of traction because ROP was kind of well known around Reddit for his frequent posting. This in turn led to more users digging into ROP's post history, trying to discern who this guy was. So a few people got to sleuthing around.
Now, eventually users found an old account from a website called Fark. Fark is a community website created by Drew Curtis that allows members to comment on a daily batch of news articles and other items from various websites. It's kind of similar to Reddit.
They found an account dating back to 2001 called, quote, Angel 2-6, and that's 2 and 6 spelled out with letters, whose bio read, quote, dispensing Lake City quiet pills to lousy bastards in need of permanent rest since 1968, end quote. The Fark comment history on this account was very similar to that of ROP's Reddit account. On Fark, Angel 26 had commented primarily about rifles, ammunition, and weaponry. Like ROP, this user seemed to have a history of military service and commented primarily about violence and shooting. Angel 26 had a number of other accounts as well. Yahoo Answers, websites dedicated to ZBrush, a digital sculpting tool, and Dig, the direct precursor to Reddit. I have the username SpicyChica69, but there's like 68 others, so this doesn't mean it's the same person, you know?
I mean, that's true, Andy, but, we can reasonably surmise that the users of U2-6 and Angel26 were the same person based on the consistent spelling and grammar mistakes across all these accounts. They constantly put the apostrophe in the word didn't after the second D, so that's DID apostrophe NT instead of after the N where it belongs. They spelled no, KNOW, as in the knowledge form of no, as NO, and they misspelled a variety of other words such as tolerated or friend. I mean, here's the thing. People say they're the same because it's kind of tough to keep the same shtick up across so many accounts, right? But also, the email used to register the account on Fark was listed as angel.2.6 at lakecityquietpills.com. So these are probably the same guy, but still, after all this evidence was dug up, people still thought that maybe they kind of just said, so what? This is probably just a big hoax to drive more traffic to this stupid Lake City Quiet Pills website.
But what was the deal with the Lake City Quiet Pills site? Well, as we said, the site was mostly used for porn image hosting. But why name it Lake City Quiet Pills? That's not sexy at all. These are all way better and sexier names for a porn image hosting site. Number 1, come and look at our images and come. 2, Sex Bucket. Also a good band name.
That's true.
And number 3, Chuck Suck and Fuck, formerly Sneeds. Those are all way better names. Well, some users decided to look at the source code for the Lake City Quiet Pill site and found clues to really jumpstart this mystery. Hidden inside the site's HTML code was a motto which sounded similar to something you've heard before. Quote, dispensing Lake City Quiet Pills to lousy bastards in need of permanent rest since 1968, end quote. The exact same forum bio as Angel26. The site's HTML source code was chock full of job postings, but not ordinary job postings. These postings were written in a cryptic manner. Here's some examples. Immediate need, 8 to 10 Chinese/Korean, fluent Korean/dialect/accent details after contact. 12-week half-pay sequester on refusal. 2 ground types, fluent Farsi, Arabic, French. No papers, no problems. Need formed group, 8 to 10, single op, the live bonus, quote, gentleman's agreement, end quote, insurance, immediate need. Spec, 4 Eng/French private security on cruise, must be bondable. And 4 Italian/Spanish speakers, no Euro W/W, must be bondable. And at the bottom, the source code read, Shade is maintaining the calendar and access to the file dump. Angel has the job postings for EU and Asia. We aren't sending anyone to ME. No one. Don't ask for listings.
Now we are getting somewhere, okay? And I just want to clarify real quick in case anyone here is a little confused, because we're going to bring this up a lot. Websites, well, they're built with a lot of different things, but eventually they're output into HTML, which is the language that you build websites in. So you can look at the HTML of any website ever, even today. You can right-click on any website and hit view source code, and you can usually look at it. So that's what they're looking at when we say hidden in the source code, is someone is looking at that source code page and they're seeing this stuff sort of written in between the code that would build the site. It's sort of in there, commented out, kind of not affecting it. So it's kind of hidden in there, right? I just wanted to clarify that. Now, just what the fuck are these bizarre messages doing hidden in the website source code? Okay. Now, sleuths, they went back and forth. They debated, what could these codes mean? Now, later, in a message detailed the same day as his death was announced on Reddit, that is July 17th, 2009, an unknown individual posted in this hidden message board in the source code, quote, "I am sorry to tell you that old Milo died yesterday. He went calm and quiet. He went quiet and calm, not like we all figured. I gave that fat mangy cat of his to the little girl next. No services or nothing. You know Milo. I'm taking his ashes back to where his farm was, close to it anyway. There's a mall where his place was. So hoist a few for the old man. Remember what he said. Keep with the man who's got your back." Now, based on a couple of misspellings, which you obviously couldn't tell unless you look at it, in this post, we can reasonably surmise that the post was written by Angel26. But again, what's with these acronyms and cryptic messages? The usage of the term WW is likely believed to be in reference to the term wet work, which is involved in murder for hire scenarios. Now, we don't mean the kind of work I do as a professional water park ride tester, and we certainly don't mean my other work as a urine analysis machine. Where I drink piss and I tell you what's wrong with your piss.
He calls his business urinalysis.
We mean hitmen for hire, Andy.
Oh.
These obviously, these posts are of a sort of military operative nature. Alternatively, is believed that, this could have been in reference to wants/warrants. When this was discovered, various people on Reddit started to continue to monitor the site. But this really didn't receive that much attention until a little bit later. New updates would continue to roll into this site's hidden source code sort of job board.
On September 30th, 2009, more than 2 months later, this same person posted, quote, "For those who have asked, I bricked Milo's iron key the same day. All is well," end quote. The meaning of this message is actually pretty clear. An iron key is an encrypted hard drive, and by bricking a device, that means you essentially render it useless. By bricking a device, you are in essence destroying it and any of the information held on it. By ending the message with "all is well," this user is implying that there was incriminating information on Milo's hard drive, which now no longer exists. On November 14th, 2009, Angel26, we surmise, posted again in the hidden source code. Quote, "Milo's will cleared probate. Surprise! Milo was loaded. Email Shade if we sent you out in 2005 through 2009. Shade will have checks cut for you. Amount is by how many times, not by pay total. Small share is 3 to 4K. Now, like with other stuff, there's lots of spelling errors in there that we won't go through. But this all leads us to sound like Milo, who is believed to be ROP, left behind some savings, which was now being distributed to their work associates. Hidden in this porn image website's code was a network of people that were closely associated between 2005 and 2009, at least enough to warrant $3,000 to $4,000 in inheritance.
Now, a couple more months would pass with little else being disclosed on the site, but in January 12th of 2010, Angel26 returned, this time with an announcement. "Happy New Year, everyone. We're having a birthday party for the old man on the 19th. Party starts at 1500 at the usual. Send your RSVP to Shade. FYI, we're booking a room for 3 days for anyone coming from out of area and overnight for locals. Come hoist one for Dutch Milo." And another message was posted a few days later. "We got 38 rooms in the Marriott on 46th. Shade has the key cards for locals. pick up at the party. Give your travel name to the desk, and that's it. No ID needed since we're covering the bill. Keep the room service under 500, okay? The phones there are not secure. Bus from the hotel leaves at 13:30. Car service vouchers for return trip when you're ready to crash. Don't DUI! Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. So what? I mean, that's it? Is that this whole fucking mystery? This whole stupid thing is about a bunch of jailbait loving old vets having a party at the Marriott? I mean, big whoop, Andy. I party with my friends all the time at a La Quinta Inn.
Why, we know. But Art, where this gets really interesting is some have tried to tie this gathering, this alleged party, to one of the most intricate assassinations of the last century. The assassination of Hamas leader Mahmoud Al-Mabul. After his release from prison in the mid-1980s, Al-Mabul began to associate with Hamas, the organization that petitions for the creation of a Palestinian state. Many consider it a terrorist organization, but it has also been serving as the governing body for the Gaza Strip for more than a decade. Over the next 2.5 decades, Al-Mabul earned a reputation in Hamas as he worked his way up the ranks. He claimed credit for the murder of 2 Israeli soldiers, making him one of Israel's most wanted. He did some jail time in Egypt, but continued to rise up the ranks of Hamas. By the mid-2000s, he was serving as the chief logistics and weapons procurement for the military wing of the organization and was playing a vital role in the burgeoning relationship between Hamas and Iran's Revolutionary Guards. So it's pretty easy to see that this guy was a prime target of assassinations. In fact, toward the end of the early 2000s, he became the target of multiple assassination attempts. The first being a failed car bomb. The second was in 2009 when an elite team attempted to poison him in Dubai. Al-Mabul became mysteriously ill, but not fatally ill, so he recovered without knowing he'd been poisoned. He probably felt like me after I shovel all-you-can-eat clam linguine down my throat at Mama Manja's, home of the all-you-can-eat clam linguine, Art. Art, I literally bring a winter shovel and have the head chef strap me down in an old dentist chair as they shovel clam linguine into my mouth for hours.
Andy, that's really not necessary.
Oh no, it is, Art. I start to convulse about 2 hours in. It's a lot of clam linguine.
It's too much.
Anywho, this Al-Mabul fella, huh? How about him? So because he was unaware that there had been a second attempt on his life, Al-Mabul lived his life a little more relaxed than maybe he should have in hindsight. He still had security though. He lived in Syria but often traveled around the Middle East conducting business on behalf of Hamas. He usually traveled under fake names using fake passports and more often than not traveled with a contingent of security guards. Unbeknownst to him, there had been a security breach on his computer. The computer he used to arrange his travels had been compromised by a Trojan horse virus, which is not a tiny wooden horse filled with tiny Greek soldiers who attack your computer like I originally thought. Apparently, it's a computer virus that allows secret backdoor access to your computer and its contents. It allows unauthorized access to your computer, basically.
Now, in early January of 2010, Al-Mabul booked a flight to Dubai and arranged for hotel accommodations for at least 2 days on his compromised computer. So on this trip, he was not going to be followed by bodyguards. The bodyguards would arrive the day after him. So for at least 24 hours, Al-Mabul would be in a foreign nation completely alone. Whoever obtained this knowledge through this hacked computer began to make little travel arrangements as well. On January 19th, 2010, Mahmoud Al-Mabul arrived in Dubai, the largest and richest city in the United Arab Emirates. And again, he was flying alone under a fake name and with no security guards. Earlier, a small network of around 33 individuals arrived in Dubai also. They entered using fake names and fake passports and began coordinating their efforts to track Al-Mabul. It is believed that this operation was led by at least 3 main coordinators, codenamed Gail Folliard, Kevin Daveron, and Peter Elvinger. Now, they had coordinated an alleged 5 trips to Dubai previously to gain intel on the area and do reconnaissance for their mission. Al-Mabul arrived in Dubai at 3 p.m. local time, and from the moment he landed, the operatives began to follow him and communicate his location to the others. This is like a real-life spy movie. These operatives, they would dart in and out of sight and enter restrooms and don a new disguise or wear wigs Like spies.
Yeah.
Even prior to Al-Mabul's arrival, about a half dozen of the operatives arrived to scout out the hotel lobby and make note of the entire layout. The exits, where they gotta go, the different passages. Al-Mabul arrived at the Al Bustan Rotana Hotel, where two operatives are seen on the hotel security cameras disguised as two dudes about to play tennis with, they're carrying tennis rackets. One of the operatives follows Al-Mabul to his room, while the other stays in the hotel lobby, communicates the information to the rest of the team. The one who follows him to his room doesn't act, however. He just walks past Al-Mabul to learn where his hotel room is, which was room 230.
All of the operatives' motives and actions are caught on hotel security footage, and a 30-minute timeline has been pieced together for this entire operation. In fact, you can watch the footage yourself. It will be linked in the show notes. Now that the spies have his room number, they immediately rent a room directly across the hall from Al-Mabul, room 237. This acted as their base of operations. Al-Mabul leaves his hotel room sometime later and travels to a nearby mall where he is still tracked and trailed by other operatives. In the meantime, the hotel operation team gets to work. Operatives successfully hack the electronic lock to Al-Mabul's room, allowing them access without his knowledge. While they work on the hacking, another cooperative is disguised as a hotel staff member in the elevator lobby of their floor. When other hotel patrons exit the elevators and attempt to go back to their rooms, these disguised operatives stop them and delay them long enough for the hacking team to finish. Art, this is awesome. This is some real spy shit here.
I know. Can you imagine how cool it would be to be disguised as someone else? Even for just a moment?
God, if I could just be disguised as anyone but myself, even for a minute, man. That would be so great. God. Can you just imagine being not me for like even a moment? Oh, what a relief. Anyway, when Al-Mabul returns to his room around 8:30 p.m., he is none the wiser. No suspicions at all. He unlocks his door and has no clue that there are individuals waiting for him inside. Roughly 20 minutes later, the operatives in room 230 begin exiting the room and return to room 237. Within moments, they begin to exit the hotel one by one with all of their belongings in tow. Within 4 hours, almost all of these men and women have left Dubai entirely, with their flights taking them all across the globe to Frankfurt, Bangkok, Zurich, Rome, Johannesburg, Paris, and Doha.
Now, Mahmoud Al-Mabul, on the other hand, would never leave his hotel room because he was dead, and dead people can't book travel on airlines, as far as I know.
We've tried.
We've tried. At around the same time the assassins were leaving his room, he missed a phone call from his wife, and his body would not be discovered until the very next morning, roughly 12 hours after he had been killed. On January 20th, the next day, when hotel staff checked in on Al-Mabul, they noted that the door was locked from the inside. This included the door lock's chain, which the assassins had somehow managed to lock from the outside. This made the death appear natural, and the investigators originally noted the death as being from natural causes. However, a more thorough autopsy revealed that there was nothing natural about this death. The assassins injected Al-Mabul with a fast-acting muscle relaxant called succinylcholine. He was completely paralyzed, but still conscious. Al-Mabul was unable to resist the electrocution they performed on him. And finally, the pillow used to suffocate him to death. Now, this apparently made the death look more natural than it was. The security cam footage was pivotal for Dubai authorities in recreating the movements of the assassins. These operatives had been scouting the region for a while, checking in and out of various hotels in the region that Al-Mabul was known to stay at. This network of operatives had been using fake passports, which came from predominantly Western nations. This included the UK, Ireland, Australia, France, and Germany, who were now dragged into this issue without their knowledge or foresight. In addition, several of these operatives had made phone calls to a number in Austria, who was perhaps their coordinator.
While some of these assassins had paid their way in cash, many of them had used Payoneer, a specific type of prepaid credit card. These credit cards had been branded in the United States, MasterCards branded by US-based Metabank, but issued by Payoneer. But it was rumored that the CEO of Payoneer, Yuval Tal, had direct ties to Israeli intelligence. Due to the victim being a high-ranking member of Hamas, as well as being a long-sought target of their intelligence forces, it made sense that Israel was involved in some fashion. In February of 2010, the chief of Dubai police publicly stated that this assassination was most likely ordered by Mossad, Israel's intelligence force, who had wanted both justice and revenge against Al-Mabul for several years at this point. Israel didn't deny the claim, instead choosing to feign confusion in the investigation. Israel's foreign minister even stated that the international press was watching. Quote, too many Bond movies, end quote. But I mean, let's be real here. You can never watch too many James Bond movies. I mean, come on. I'm a huge James Bond fan. It really comes up for some reason, but I just love James Bond. Big part of my lore. Part of my lore.
You love James Bond, but you really bring him up.
Yeah. Bring him up.
You got those DVDs, Andy. You can't hide it from me.
I'll bring him up more. I call myself the man with the golden gun.
Quit talking about your dick.
Well, I did dip it in gold. A total of 18 operatives were named and placed on Interpol's most wanted list later that month. But due to their fake identities, nobody knew exactly who these people were. Pictures of 11 of these operatives would be distributed by Interpol, and to this day, they remain unidentified by the world at large. The United States, of course, refused to cooperate with the investigation being handled by the United Arab Emirates. U.S. officials refused to hand over the cardholder details of the Payoneer credit cards used by the assassins, which likely would have shed light on who exactly bankrolled this operation. Another man nicknamed Brodsky was arrested in Poland in June of 2010. He was later extradited to Germany, where he was supposed to stand trial for crimes related to this assassination. There, however, he was soon released on bail and seemingly disappeared into thin air, just like the other assassins. Now, this assassination could easily be a topic on its own. It's literally a conspiracy to commit murder. But how does it relate to Lake City Quiet Pills?
The date and time of the Lake City, quote, party posting lines up exactly with the assassination of Al-Mabul, January 19th, 2010. It was already believed that the postings in the Lake City Quiet Pills HTML source code were of a sort of, assassin or military operative nature, calling for Blackwater secret mission type shit and hitman postings. Could their, quote, party have been code for this assassination attempt? Let's kind of break down the original party post here. So first we got 38 rooms in the Marriott on 46th. Now, who the fuck rents 38 rooms for a party at a hotel? 38, though, is very close to the believed number of operatives, which was 33. Next, we have Shade has the key card for locals, parentheses, pick up at the party, parentheses, give your travel name to the desk, and that's it. Now, are these key cards the various cards used to check into the area hotels in Dubai? What the heck are travel names? Could these be code for the fake names used by the assassins? And finally, we have, quote, no ID needed since they're covering the bill. Keep the room service under 500, okay? The phones there are not secure, end quote. Again, weird to mention keeping the room service under 500 and to also mention that the phones are not secure. That seems like a very odd, spy-esque thing to say, right?
Some of the suspects in the assassination were given credit cards issued out of Metabank in Storm Lake in Iowa, which is a town over, about 1 hour drive, from Lake City, Missouri. In Lake City, Missouri, resides the Lake City Ammunition Factory. As of July 2007, the plant produced nearly 1.4 billion rounds of ammunition per year for the U.S. Army. If we connect this to Angel 26's bio, Lake City Quiet Pills, well, quiet pills are a slang term for bullets. And what is produced in Lake City? Bullets. Lake City Quiet Pills. This has led many users to believe the assassins involved in the Al-Mabul case were likely connected to Lake City Quiet Pills in some regard. Then there's also the post that showed up on the Lake City Quiet Pills site source page shortly after the assassination on February 2nd, 2010. Roughly 2 weeks later, that post titled Party Bills read as follows. Here is the final for the party. Hotel rooms, 48,341. Limo, 6,080. Bus, 569. Bar bill, 18,890. Food, 8,030. Dancers, 8,300. Misc tips, 850. Misc exp, 2,840. Med supplies, 180. parentheses, Fat Tommy and Stu are okay too, in parentheses. Total, 94,080. You all did Dutch Milo proud. Thanks. End quote. It's believed that these are monetary totals for the supposed party for Milo, aka ROP. If so, these are some hefty bills for a party, huh? Could these actually be code for the money made on the assassination? Afterward, the site source code was encrypted with PGP encryption to prevent users from reading it, as the Lake City people had discovered that Reddit users were posting about their hidden job board. And finally, the site was taken down entirely. We jumped around the timeline here a bit, but the Lake City information was available for only a short amount of time before they discovered people on Reddit were looking into them. Regardless, the mystery has left many fascinated with the true nature of the Lake City Quiet Pill site.
So what was it? In the years since the internet mystery unfolded, many have come to believe that the Lake City Quiet Pills is nothing more than just a hoax. Just some weird porn image hosting site with a bunch of weird old military vets. Others have argued that this was an ARG, an alternate reality game, which often utilizes the internet to create weird, kind of complicated puzzles. That's something we sort of covered with Cicada 3301. The thing is, with an ARG, why would somebody go through the trouble of creating decades-old accounts? I mean, remember that Angel26 FARC account was created in 2001, and then drafting content for them over the years and also develop this intricate puzzle just to encrypt the whole thing and remove it entirely once people discovered the mystery. Now, others have pointed out more connections to these strange messages. The name Milo, for instance, could also be a reference to a military intelligence liaison officer, which is defined as follows. The military intelligence liaison officer concept has existed for a long time in the United Kingdom. The aim is to have a group of trained intelligence officers available with a broad background who can be quickly deployed to any potential mission area to assist in the planning and preparation of any potential peacekeeping operation prior to deployment. They could also be assigned as temporary reinforcements in case particular intelligence requirements have arisen. Now, could the members of Lake City be some kind of intelligence liaisons, assisting with the assassination in some capacity through either resource gathering or intelligence gathering? I mean, there were 33 known operatives involved in this assassination. And obviously, there would need to be some significant work involved in coordinating all this, procuring weapons, travel, IDs, and payment. Finally, there's the name 26, which is believed to possibly be a reference to the phrase 26 heave, which is a typical military phrase used to coordinate pulling or cannon fire on a military ship.
There definitely seems to be some kind of American involvement here, as there is connections to American banks and their refusal to cooperate with the authorities on the assassination. Then there's the fact that most of the passports were from European countries and Australia, but nothing from the Western Hemisphere. Some users argue over the obvious location of the supposed Blackwater assassination hitmen postings. Some points to consider on this are: who is looking for this kind of information in the source code of a porn image hosting site? Also, the posting in the source code may have been a mistake. It is believed that there exists a secret job board forum on the Lake City Quiet Pill site where these jobs are posted, and they may have accidentally also been incorporated into the site's source code, again, unintentionally, through an error in the code which generates the forum. Allegedly, after the job posting in the HTML source code was changed to PGP encryption, someone with access to the actual job forum saw the member discussing it, saying, quote, "We fixed that issue," end quote. Some further analysis has been done in recent years into the Lake City Quiet Pills phenomenon. It's mostly loose connections and findings, but we'll include it to give you the whole enchilada. Sometime in 2010, users also discovered that the old guy's image hosting site was an image hosting site for a larger forum site called drunkstepfather.com. We don't recommend that you go there. Every user on Lake City Quiet Pills was a user on Drunk Stepfather, but not the other way around. Milo/ROP likely owned and operated Old Guy Image Host and Drunk Stepfather. Users also found that 26 was likely some kind of title or moniker given to users. However, Angel26 was likely an individual user. Some users who have known to be a 26 in the site's history are Jarrell Mank, JP4, Pierce. 26s are likely curators for the image site or the job posting Some believe only the user Shade was in charge of job posting, while the 26s were in charge of the image searching. But after Shade died of cancer, the job posting role may have been passed to these 26 users. The 26s only held their positions for a few months at a time before the role was passed to another user.
Here's a couple other miscellaneous facts. Angel 26's avatar on the forum was a line drawing of a bird of prey, which is very similar to the symbol of the Selous Scouts, which is a osprey. Now, if you don't know, the Selous Scouts was a special forces regiment of the Rhodesian army that operated from 1973 until the reconstitution of the country as Zimbabwe in 1980. The Selous Scouts were a combat reconnaissance force with the mission of infiltrating Rhodesia's tribal population and guerrilla networks, pinpointing rebel groups and relaying vital information back to the conventional forces earmarked to carry out the actual attacks. Members of the regiment were trained to cooperate in small, undercover, clandestine teams capable of working independently in the bush for a number of weeks and of passing themselves off as rebels. The Scouts were a volunteer force. On one occasion, 14 out of 126 candidates passed the selection process. Now, they were an insanely tough and brutal special forces unit. You can read up on them. In one instance, though, to get information out of some guerrilla fighters, they made them all hold a kind of planking or sort of upward push-up position. And when one of the fighters would give up and fall, they would take them out of sight of the others and then shoot a gun into the air to make the others think they were being killed. This was all to get intel out of the guerrilla fighters so that the ones who were left holding the plank were scared shitless and then they would give up information.
I would have lasted like 15 seconds.
Well, as we all know, Andy, you were a guerrilla fighter in Zimbabwe.
Yeah, I've boxed my fair share of gorillas.
Could this be another possible connection to their military involvement in some sort of special forces operation? I mean, when you think of kind of covert military operatives and assassins, you kind of think of these highly trained sort of dudes. Now, a Whois was run on the Lake City Quiet Pill site in 2009. Whois is a domain registrant information lookup. Anybody who registers a domain must fill out information related to their, their name, address, phone number, email, etc. When you buy a domain, that's just standard. Even today, you can typically purchase something like WhoisGuard or some other service. When you buy a website, it's usually for pretty cheap, like $1 or $2. Anyway, this just blocks information from being shown publicly. It will instead display some kind of information for the company whose protection plan you purchased. Anyway, allegedly, the Lake City site Whois led a connection to a small bank branch with Israeli Mossad connections. Finally, we have Eduard Jordan. 3 years ago, a Reddit post to the r/obituaries subreddit was made. Here's what it said. Me, as a friend of Eduard Jordan, who used to be ranked as a master sergeant in the French army, Armée de Terre François. Is that it? Français. I do want to honor his memory. He served in Afghanistan and Africa. Born in 1984, dead in 2016. Left the army after several tours in 2008. Since he had been dispensing Lake City Quiet Pills to lousy bastards in need of permanent rest. He loved hotel parties. He was an only child, odd with no friends but DM. Eduard now meets the religion of peace. 39.937343, comma, dash 74.969068. Those coordinates lead to a Motel 6 in Maple Shade, New Jersey. Now, a Google search for Eduard Jordan reveals an Amazon page for an author of the same name who has published 2 self-published books, The Murderer's Dictionary, An Odyssey of True Infamy, and Devil's Score, A Tale of Decadent Omen. Jordan's books, on the back cover of the books, read this. Eduard Jordan, a bilingual author, is a computer engineer who started his career as a military. That's not a misquote. That's what it reads.
A one-man army.
And has always been a keen interest in journalism, history, and literature. He's author of the famous The Devil's Score, earning a reputation through a unique viral marketing campaign on the internet. He's the maestro behind many alternate reality games such as Lake City Quiet Pills and the Key Lime Pie Mystery. Now, some people believe this guy is just full of shit and just trying to milk internet mysteries to sell his books, but Could he be related to Lake City Quiet Pills in some capacity?
While this topic has been around for a while, it seems to have peaked in interest around October of 2019. Barely Sociable and his YouTube channel is largely associated with the spread of this mystery with his video, Lake City Quiet Pills Explained, which is linked in the show notes. Initially, a follow-up was planned to this video, but nothing ever emerged. When he finally spoke up regarding the topic, he had this long thread that he published on Twitter, which we're going to read here. Quote, been holding my tongue on this for a while, but Lake City Quiet Pills was a hoax made by a hardcore role player on Second Life.
Whoa.
His name was Trent Katsu, and he had a server friend by the name of Tigero Spotty Stripes. There was no Merc board, and ROP and Milo were the same. I assume that's supposed to be were the same. The guy also went by like 49 different names. 1, Trent the Thief. 2, Flink. 3, Angel26. 4, JP4. The guy is a technical writer that works in New York, or NY. Parentheses, the paste bin from a while back was somewhat right. Close parenthesis. One final thing is that other users from the @DrunkenStepwit were involved in keeping the legend of, quote, the Mercs alive, end quote. They are just a bunch of old perverts who probably RP'd on Second Life. The owner of the DSF forum wouldn't talk to me when I reached out, so who knows what the group of perverts is up to. Oh yes, Trent Katsu is a furry role player too, so yeah, not too far-fetched, this person would pretend to be something like a military vet. One final perverted detail is that Flink set up a Tor server right after the old guy's image host went down. Who knows what the old pervert was doing setting up a dark web server. Their Second Life server was called something like Blue Fur Industries. The other thing, too, is that this group used PGP to communicate. I think the dark web server and the whole r/LCQP hidden subreddit was for swinger parties. I know all this sounds nuts, but I just couldn't be bothered to make another video on this topic. There's one thread where they talk about some guy bringing his girls to a nightclub, likely near New Jersey, New York, called Lollipop. Keep in mind, the guy who was ROP pretended to be a military vet for respect on Reddit. That is that saddest and most disrespectful shit ever. End quote. So, was all this just a bunch of dudes role-playing on the internet? I mean, most situations I find myself in are. So what's the future of the Lake City investigation? Because the information included prior to this is pretty much the main story.
Yeah, there's just a bunch of more kind of random loose threads. The subreddit for Lake City Quiet Pills, r/Lake City Quiet Pills, is rather dead and has been for a while. There is a subreddit called r/LCQP with a few bizarre encrypted posts on them. Lake City sleuths have uncovered a few comments from users who posted to the r/LCQP subreddit. Their post history, kind of mentions similar stuff to ROP and Angel26, where it's various military service and a few other comments related to Lake City lore, commenting on how they were sad to hear of Milo's passing. One user called Kim says something about being a helicopter pilot in the military. Anyway, later it was found out that a guy named Mike /Trent the Thief owned a small web hosting business called crystalwinds.com that allegedly hosted the Lake City domain and site. There was a verified Q&A with Mike, and here's a few of the questions and answers. Mike says, here's the deal. I tried my hand at web hosting for small local businesses without much success for several years. I met a guy named Oscar who hired me to host an image website. That's as far as I was involved. I had a dedicated IP and he had a server that he wanted online. He paid $50 cash a month. When they left, he sold me their server, which I immediately resold to someone, a young lady whose name I can't remember, from a forum. After paying Oscar for the server, I never heard from him again. I never dealt with anyone else at LC except by email. 3 to 4 different people emailed as Angel26 when there were server issues they couldn't fix remotely, when they'd crashed the image host software. The first 26 sometimes signed as Jero. Another one is Bishop. Jero didn't write well. Grammar, spelling, phrasing. Bishop and Pierce could both write well enough, but one was very terse and had no sense of humor, and the other was pretty wordy. There was another 262, but I only know about him because Shade told me he was new. A week later, he was replaced. No emails from him. Here's another question. Were you aware of the hidden message board on LCQP? Mike answers, I never looked at the image host except to upload images, check log files, restart it, or when ISP shut down the connection after they received an offensive image report. There were some other reports, but most people reported them with TOS violation email address. It was definitely not a kiddie porn site. They didn't like hate stuff or gore either, and amended the TOS boilerplate to state as much. I went to Reddit and read about the buried information after you emailed. I don't think I have hidden anything on a public page that way, but they weren't techie. Anything you don't want to see really needs to be behind some sort of auth system.
Oscar is believed to be Shade, who is referenced in the various postings regarding ROP's death and the party. A Reddit user named u/sword of something made a post sometime in 2019 where they listed their theory regarding Lake City quiet pills. Sword of something says, Dutch Milo was likely not an actual person's name. It was likely the running nickname of Al-Mabul. If you were conducting surveillance and the eventual assassination, would you use the name Plasma Screen, which is Mossad's code name for Al-Mabul, in your communications, or something more realistic, Dutch Milo? A placeholder for the old LCQP website was first listed in 2004. Al-Mabul was released from an Egyptian prison after 3 years near the end of 2003. When released, he became an important person in Hamas, which would have put him high on Israel's terrorist radar. They could have used the secret forum for the website to communicate privately about his activities until his assassination was greenlighted, first in 2009, then again in 2010. There had been a 2009 attempt the year before to poison Al-Mabul, which failed. I believe the name Dutch Milo was composed of two parts. A, Dutch. I believe this is the location of the offsite management team for the hit. The reason for this is because during the time the team was on the ground in Dubai, several calls were made by them to Austria. Most Austrians consider themselves German, or Deutsche, which sounds like Dutch. B, Milo. Milo's just sounds a little bit like a nick for Mahmoud Al-Mabul. Should you all think that I am off my kilt, there is some more recent information to back up my previous. In 2017, a Redditor named u/Death in Detroit signed up for Reddit to make one post, only one. On the 21st of March, 2017, Death in Detroit posted a memorial for his friend Eduard Jordan. I believe this was a message to the team that a hit on another high-ranking Hamas member named Mazen Fukaha had been greenlighted. Fukaha was killed on the 25th of March, 2017, 4 days after the Jordan memorial post. I also believe that, like Dutch Milo, Eduard Jordan was the running nick for Fukaha. Remember, Death in Detroit said that Eduard Jordan was friends with DM, Dutch Milo. Fukaha was a high-ranking member of Hamas, Hamas's Al-Qassam Brigades, which is Hamas's military branch. Funny thing, Mahmoud Al-Mabul was also a high-ranking member of the Al-Qassam Brigades. They would have known each other very well, and both had served time for their terrorist activities, Al-Mabul in Egypt and Fukaha in Israel. Now, Al-Mabul did die several years before Fukaha, but they were both long-time Hamas members. Now, can anybody think of a better place to hide a secret online place of communications than a hidden forum on a kiddie porn site? Who's going to stumble on that one by accident and talk about it? Ha ha ha.
So, what was Lake City Quiet Pills? Was it a secret forum for assassin job postings? Or was it a jailbait-loving, valor-stealing furries? I mean, I run through these two options every episode. I know, motherfuckers.
I consider these two possibilities at literally every choice in my life.
Assassins or valor-stealing furries? I mean, which one is it?
That's all life is. It's you're either being assassinated or you're dealing with valor-stealing furries.
Did members help orchestrate an assassination of an internationally wanted man, or was it a bunch of old vets just role-playing on a porn image site? Either way, bunk funkers, you've made it down this internet mystery rabbit hole. And at the bottom, you didn't find no rabbit. Oh no. What you found was Andy and Art of Mr. Bunker's Conspiracy Time podcast, waiting to serve you up the whole enchilada. Lake City, Wyatt Pills.